This is the Kodak Snapic A1, a reusable film camera that costs just under $100. I've had this camera for several months now, and I've shot multiple rolls through it to answer one question. Should we finally say goodbye to disposable film cameras? Or did I just waste $100? Well, I don't want to spoil all the fun, but the quick answer is no. Now, before we begin with the Kodak Snapic A1, there was one issue I had with my first copy. On the interior in the light box, where they put the felt to capture, some of the reflections of the light off the light box, the felt was misaligned, and I didn't notice it before I started using the camera. And when I got my negatives back, little felt lines were burned into the negatives. So I just wanted to do a little disclaimer on that. So for anyone who gets this camera, pay attention to that. I don't know if this is like a higher quality control issue, but I definitely noticed it, and it was pretty visible on my first camera. I sent it back, they sent me a new one. This one, I did notice it a little tiny bit on a few frames, but it wasn't as bad as the first camera. So I just want to get that out of the way before we move along with this little camera here. So now with that out of the way, let's actually talk about the camera. Now, if you're like me, I don't care a whole lot about specs. I'm more about, do the final results look good, and do they make me want to use the camera? But let's talk a little bit about the camera here. So this has a fixed focal length of 25 millimeters, which I personally think is awesome because I'm a big 28 millimeter shooter. It's got a 3-element glass lens here, which I think definitely helps to the sharpness and the quality of this camera. It is a fixed f9.5, which, definitely creates its limitations, and a fixed shutter speed of 1/100th of a second, which definitely creates its limitations, but that's what I guess you can expect with a camera that's cheap. So this has a 2-zone focusing system, basically with this little lever here. You just switch it back and forth. Those are your two options. The first option is the close-up, which is I think 0.5 meters to 1.5 meters. And then when you switch it over to the landscape, it goes basically anything 1.5 meters and beyond. There are 3 flash modes. You would select them with this little button right here, which was pretty awesome. It has a range style viewfinder with parallax corrected lines on the inside, which also is very helpful when you're using that close-up focus mode. The film loading is super simple. You just open up the back here with this little lever, put your film in, pull it over to the line, close it, press it once, it'll make a little whirly sound. You press it again, it'll make another little whirly sound, and then your film will be loaded and ready to go. And once you're done, it has an automatic film wind, which is really nice, and it actually leaves a little bit of film out of the leader. If you are someone that is self-developing at home, that's pretty handy that you don't have to pull the film leader back out on your own. This does take 3 AAA batteries, and if you watched my unboxing video, I did make a important note that you should definitely use legit batteries like a Duracell or something that's not a reusable battery, because what I noticed when I try to use my reusable batteries is each battery isn't really a specific standard size in the length, and that caused an issue when I went to try to close the film door. I couldn't get the film door to close, so I thought something was wrong with the camera, but I went out and bought some just regular Duracell batteries, put them in, and the film door closed just fine. The weight of this camera basically doesn't matter because it's super tiny and super lightweight. You barely notice you're holding it out even at all. But yeah, like I said, it weighs basically nothing. So basically, this is just going to be a first impressions video. I'm going to show you some samples of some of the shots I got. I'm not going to go super in depth. I'll maybe create another video showing all the samples I got. Basically, I have had this, like I said, I've had this camera for a few months. I've shot 4 rolls through it now, a few gold, maybe it was 5, a few gold, a few UltraMax, and one Fuji 200. So I just want to kind of show you kind of what the results you can expect to get through those film stocks and talk a little bit about each one in different times of the day, indoor, outdoor, using the flash. My first roll, I documented everything, all the settings I used, just to kind of get an idea once I saw the results of that first roll, kind of basically how they looked with the settings I used, whether I used the flash, not the flash, how the focus looked differently when I used the close focus versus the far focus. I also want to let you guys know that with the results, I do use a local lab, and then I DSLR scan at home. So I have a lot of control using Negative Lab Pro about how my final image looks. So if you do use a local lab and get your film scans, through them, through like a Noritsu or a Frontier scanner, your final results may vary. I haven't used a lab scanner yet, so I'm not quite sure exactly how those results would look if I got them back from a lab. But yeah, just want to let you guys know that's how I scan my film at home. So if you watched an unboxing video, you would know that you get this cool little carrying case that it fits nicely inside, and you also get a little lanyard that you can attach to it that can go around your neck. You can adjust the size. The great thing about this camera and the size is I wanted to be able to put it in just like a little camera bag, which I can. I can fit this in here with this, my lanyard, with my wallet, my keys, and just take it on the go, which is one big reason why I really love this camera and why I wanted to get this camera. So yeah, let's go through some samples here. I'm going to take you kind of through the spectrum from early in the morning to mid-morning to broad daylight to evening shots to some indoor shots with flash as well, so you can kind of get an idea what you might expect to see with this camera and the results on these different film stocks at those different times of day. And I'll kind of talk you through a little bit of the shots here to give you a better idea of when they were taken, what they're of, and kind of what I saw in the image as well.
All right, let's go through some of these photos here. We're going to start with some bright and early morning light here on Kodak Gold. This was pretty much right as the sun came up and started shooting over the banister here at my house. So this is some nice warm light here, bright early in the morning. And then we transition to some shots here that were probably shot between around 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Some nice light here at the Golden Gate Bridge. These created some really nice exposures. Also really love the pop of the light on that pink tree. The colors just rendered really beautifully on Kodak Gold. The tones during this time of the day just look really nice to me. Just really like delicate and pleasing. They also look really good on Kodak UltraMax. They definitely don't have, I feel like, quite as much of that warmness to them in most of the images. A little bit more neutral tones. They still have a lot of nice contrast in most of the images, but some of the brighter light, kind of tends to wash them out a little bit. I really like the shot because it was a pretty contrasty scene with the shadows and the gazebo and the bright light on the outside. But this one I wanted to show because it was probably between 9 and 10 a.m., but it was a bit overcast that day. And the flowers definitely just like really look nice and soft in this type of light on this camera lens. I was just really pleased with how rich the colors look with this camera. Like, look at the yellows on these two pictures and just how much they pop. These photos on Fujifilm 200 just look so nice and clean, and the palm trees with the blue sky and the green grass, man, they just look so good. And just the punch of color with the green shrubbery and the red stop sign here, it's just pretty impressive just how rich these colors are on this camera. Okay, let's transition to more like a midday scenario, pretty much right in the middle of the day. Sun is high, bright light. Kodak Gold does pretty good with these scenes for most part. Sometimes they do look a little bit washed out, but like I said, with the home scanning and Negative Lab Pro, I was able to get some really good usable images here with Kodak Gold and also on UltraMax. I wanted to show these two back to back, both of these bar scenes with UltraMax, because the sun was so bright both of these days and just beaming down on the tables, but I was still able to get some really nice images out of these two. Definitely look a little bit bright, but definitely usable as well. And even, out and about during the day with Kodak UltraMax, here's a few scenes. One from the Darkroom Lab meetup, one of the beach scene out at Ocean Beach, car shows, I was still able to get really good usable results with UltraMax in the middle of the day in broad daylight. And this one right here I wanted to show because it was right in the middle of the day, but it was, some nice shade with a bright sky with the sign. I just like the dynamic range in this one that I was able to capture with this little camera. All right, now we're going to transition into some evening shots. I really like this nice shot of the red here. The flash was used on this one to give a little bit of extra light because the sun was definitely going down. Here's a good example of when I forgot to turn the flash on. Well, sorry, I did turn the flash on, but I didn't wait long enough for it to charge. You might recognize this silhouette, and boom, there's Trev from the darkroom lab. So yeah, it just shows the difference here of using the camera without the flash and with the flash when it's pretty dark out. All you get is that major dark silhouette. And even Kodak Gold in the evening still produces some really nice exposures that you can see on this pizzeria sign and the nice little palm tree shot. Got to get that palm tree shot. So let's take a look at a few images using the outdoor flash during the day. These were taken in the morning time, right around 9-10 a.m. A few shots of my kids and these flowers here. And then let's jump to a shot that was late at night. I don't even know what time this was. Shoot, I don't know, like midnight-ish, maybe even later. My buddy John here at a hot dog stand. Even with Kodak Gold with that flash, I was able to get a usable photo. Here with UltraMax, I feel like the UltraMax works a little bit better with these indoor flash shots. You get a little bit more of the background that is actually exposed a little bit more properly than you would with some of the 200 Kodak Gold pictures. This one with the table and the drinks, look how much darkness is there right back behind the table where the rest of the scene is. All you really get is that few feet of light on the subject in front of you. But I was also just so impressed. Look at this picture here of this cat club sign. This is Kodak Gold 200, and that sign was probably a good 10, 15 feet away from me. Obviously some huge vignetting and fall off of light, but the sign itself is pretty well exposed on Kodak Gold 200. And now this one was interesting too on UltraMax 400. This was in a bathroom at a brewery in San Francisco. Even with UltraMax, just that flash pop on the center subject. Look how much fall off of light there is. Pretty intense for a really dark scene in a dark bathroom. During the daytime, this camera even has some vignetting, which I thought was really interesting. I seem to notice it mostly in really bright light scenes, especially on these beachy kind of environments. But you see all that heavy vignetting and kind of weird tones. I don't know if it was with Negative Lab Pro trying to read the light in the negative and convert it properly. I'm not sure what happened with these, but the exposures look kind of wonky to me. And here's an example of when I forgot to switch the focusing lever. I used the wrong focus on these two pictures here. Probably should have used the far focus, but I accidentally used the close focus, but I was still able to get usable images. Definitely a little bit soft on the subject, but still usable. And another thing I was really impressed with on this camera was just how sharp some of these images look. Like, look at this tiger. Now, there is a flash on this one, so it does help accentuate the sharpness, but just look at the details in the statue on this tiger and the details on the rocks on this beach here. I was pretty impressed with just how sharp some of these images are. Now, if you like double exposures, obviously here's some fun examples of some double exposures I was able to capture. And if you're lucky, you might even get a couple of sweet photo burns. 2 out of 5 rolls, I've got some nice photo burns. So yeah, that's it. These are some example photos and kind of what you can expect here from 200 and 400 speed films if you're shooting the Kodak Snapic A1.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the things I like and dislike about this camera after using it here for a few months. Now, for the quality of the images, I was actually very pleasantly surprised at just how sharp this little tiny camera was. I feel like a lot of the images turned out extremely sharp, and I was very pleasantly surprised and really actually enjoyed the quality and the look and the aesthetic of the pictures that this camera provided. It was super easy to use. Obviously, there's not a ton of settings to use, so it's pretty much, pick up and go. It's super lightweight and pocketable, which is, like I said, what I really enjoyed about this camera, and that was what I wanted. I wanted something super lightweight, something I would just want to grab and take with me pretty much anywhere I was going. Another reason why I wanted to pick up this camera was the ability to take double exposures. Now, I'm not like a huge double exposure kind of guy, but I do like to take them from time to time, and the fact that this had the setting to be able to do so, which is pretty easy, you just press and hold this button right here, and you would take your first frame. And then once you get that frame, you would just basically slide this little lever here, and it goes to the next frame. I also picked this up because it does have the flash, because I wanted to use the flash, for a lot of indoor stuff, just taking random pictures of my kids. So that was another big selling point for me, that this camera had a flash on it with the multiple flash modes. Now, one thing I actually really liked about this camera that I didn't foresee using it for was taking selfies with friends. 25 millimeters, it's super easy just to pop it out there, pop on the flash if you're indoor, and just take a quick selfie with some of your friends or family. I actually enjoyed doing that with people I met at some of the photo meetups, and just with my friends out in San Francisco, and even with my wife. It was just kind of a fun thing to do, just to capture some of those memories on film. And one thing I really enjoyed about this camera is on a standard 36 frame roll of film, I was typically getting 38, if not 39 frames, so you're getting a little bit of extra bang for your buck with this camera. So let's talk about a few things that I did not really, well, not that I didn't like, but maybe were just a little bit inconvenient, or a little bit maybe frustrating or off-putting initially with this camera. Obviously, the felt light chamber issue that I talked about right at the beginning was a big bummer when I first got that first rollback, but hopefully that's not going to be a big issue for a lot of the different cameras that you guys are getting. But hopefully that was maybe just a one-off, or hopefully that's just not something that's happening a lot. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have this camera, if you've had the same issue. There aren't really a lot of build quality concerns. My only one maybe is the battery door. It's plastic, and it basically latches where two parts of the camera meet on this edge right here, so it's not like one solid piece that it attaches to. So maybe down the line, if those become kind of like loosened up a bit or worn, maybe the battery door is not going to stay closed for a very long time, or maybe the plastic might break, which I've had issues with other cameras where the door latch breaks, so that could be potentially an issue in the future, but so far it's been fine. The focus limitations were obviously, not the greatest. You only have two options, but with, the 25 millimeter and the 0.95 aperture, I didn't really have too many issues with photos being out of focus. It's more of the sense that I would sometimes forget that I have the option to change it, and I would forget to change it from the close focus to the distance focus. But even when I did forget to change it, I didn't really seem to have too many issues with the images still being sharp and mostly in focus, probably because the 25 millimeters and the 0.95 aperture. Another thing about this is there was a lot of vignetting in a lot of the images, probably just due to the nature of the quality of the lens and it being so small and compact and not being the most high quality glass. Definitely was more evident in flash photos where it was pretty dark. Some super heavy vignetting in a few images. Most of the daytime pictures weren't so bad. You would notice it in a few potential scenarios, but overall, it's just something to be aware of. Also, just the limitations of the aperture and shutter speed. It would be nice to have an option to be able to adjust one of those in certain scenarios, especially when broad daylight. Obviously, that's part of buying a $100 camera. You're going to have to sacrifice certain things. And for me, it's really not that big of a deal. It just would be a nice add-on to be able to maybe have another switch here where you could maybe open up the aperture a little wider, or stop it down a little bit, or just be able to adjust the shutter speed to maybe something a little bit faster. We use that higher shutter speed for a lot of brighter scene type scenarios. But overall, not a biggie. I'd pay maybe a little bit of extra money to get that feature, but who knows how much extra that would make this camera cost. So I'm fine with the way it is. The final thing that maybe I wasn't super hyped on was the flash seems to take a little long to charge to take a photo. And also, I would sometimes forget that the flash needed to charge, and I would take the picture before it was fully charged, and it just wouldn't go off. So that's another minor thing that I just had to kind of get used to with the camera and remember and remind myself, you gotta wait for the flash to charge. Yeah, overall, I feel like those setbacks or pitfalls of this camera are not enough to make me not want to shoot the camera. So who is this camera for? Well, I think it's really for anybody. It just depends on what you're looking to do with photography. It's obviously really good for beginners or people who just want to shoot film and have an easy process in going out and shooting. And I got this because I just wanted something super easy and fun to take out and capture day-to-day moments, and occasionally in the right scenarios actually really get some nice high quality shots, which I feel like this camera is actually able to produce. Who is this camera not for? Obviously, if you want the most high-end gear and you want super high quality results every single time, good luck to you. You probably don't want this camera. But for me, it served the purpose that I thought it would, and I've really enjoyed using it so far. So, would I recommend using this camera? Heck yes, if for all those reasons, if that's something you want. I think this is a really good alternative to buying your reusable film cameras. I think with the glass element, you're getting a little bit more quality than you would with some of the reusable plastic camera lenses. Like I said, I feel like the results are super usable, actually really nice, and I am overall 100% pleased with my purchase of this camera. Now, of the film stocks I used, which one is my favorite? Ultimately, I would recommend using Kodak UltraMax in this camera if you're using color film. I honestly didn't notice a huge difference in broad daylight in my final results of using UltraMax versus Gold versus Fuji 200. Honestly, I think the UltraMax gives you a little bit more versatility in whether you're shooting indoor or outdoor, using the flash. It just gives you a little bit of that extra flexibility, which also I think I really like the way the results looked just a little bit better than the Gold. The Gold, you got, I think, a little bit more of the warmer tones, where the UltraMax was a little bit more neutral in the results, which gives you a little bit more leeway in final post-processing of getting the exact kind of look that you want. Yeah, so overall, I would recommend shooting UltraMax in this. I'm going to keep, using different ones. I want to try Color Plus in it to see how that looks. But I think overall, I'm going to be using UltraMax mostly in this camera. So, if you have this camera, I'd love to know how you like it so far. So yeah, feel free to leave a comment or reach out to me on Instagram at @negativebrian. I'd love to see some of the results that you guys are getting. If you're looking for a fun, easy-to-use camera, I hope you guys consider picking this up, and I hope you guys have fun shooting. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.